4 minutes.
Ms. Oswald, say something to see if I can hear you.
Something. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Good.
Are you on mute? Are you on mute?
No, I thought I just took myself off. No, I'm not. Can you hear me?
Mute. Mute yourself.
Oh, mute now. It's 7:00 p.m. Calling the meeting to order. We do have a quorum this evening. For the record, Dr. Spurgeon is in Washington, D.C., attending the AASA Governing Board meeting and is excused from this meeting. He was elected as one of 2 members from Missouri on that board. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Ready for the question? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Oswald, do you have any announcements?
I do not.
Okay. Ms. Maureen?
I have no announcements.
I have no announcements either. Ms. Fields, do we have any patrons who want to speak before the board?
No, sir, we do not.
Oh, thank you. Superintendent's report, he is absent, so we will, or he's excused, so we will skip that. To all our presenters tonight, we have 6 informational items and 17 discussion items. So I'm going to ask you to be as succinct as possible while still getting your point across. So we will start with the information items, the annual food service program evaluation. Ms. Ibram.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues and community. Tonight I'm presenting the program evaluation for our food service operations for the 2021 school year. You can go to the next slide, please. So this just shows our mission and the focus of why we do our work. So in a nutshell, we recognize the important relationship of nutrition and education. We know that when our scholars eat well, they also do well in school. We are working to alleviate hunger, and we want to provide a place where our scholars like to eat. You can go to the next slide. The last program evaluation done on the food service program operations was in 2019. As of that last evaluation, we have a salary increase that was recommended by the former director that will take place in the 21-22 school year, as well as the completion of department improvements. It was suggested to do capital improvements for our department. So the high school renovation has been completed, and recently nutrition management software has been purchased as an upgrade for our department. Here are my goals and objectives for the 2021 school year. So at the top is the goal in the bold, and then the objective is underneath. Our goal is to provide nutritionally balanced meals at no cost to our scholars each day. One of the goals, as I said in the last slide, was to get our nutrition software up and running by the second semester. It's still a work in progress, but it's going to help our operations in a way that we can make more informed decisions for the back of the house as far as how we operate within the district and in our kitchens, and then for our scholars and their families to make informed nutrition choices as far as their school breakfast and lunch meals. The next goal is to comply with the Healthy 2010 Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. We always participate in professional development. It's a requirement as we operate the USDA National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. So the objective was to make sure that myself and the assistant director complete the 12 professional development hours within the 2021 school year by April. Then to the bottom left, we're working to build a healthy school food culture. So we're trying to gain information from our principals and other stakeholders, and of course the scholars as they come back to school in the coming semester. We're trying to understand what type of foods and menus and changes that they would like to see in the school food environment here in Riverview Gardens School District. And then the last goal is to continue to maintain physical responsibility. In this school year, of course, the participation was not as high as it's been in previous school years. So to maintain physical responsibility, a lot of that had to do with inventory and canceling USDA commodities that we would have committed to for the 2021 school year. We can go to the next slide. These are the strategies that we had in place to meet those goals. So we continue to seek technical assistance from our state department, as well as other school food authorities, such as the School Nutrition Association. We received guidance from these authorities on how to operate during the COVID-19 closures. To expand food access, we operated bus routes to take the food out into the community. As I said earlier, we're still improving our facilities and operations through various special capital projects. We're working to improve the food quality through new distributors that we're using, and then to elevate the scholar voices, again, getting the scholars engaged in our school meal programs. Next slide, please. These are the different evaluation tools and the outcomes that we had in this school year. We're always checking our menu nutrition analysis, making sure that we are meeting the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs and the child, adult, and food care programs that we operate here in the district. Again, to keep our menus in line with the standards, we're looking at our production records and our inventories that we keep for our products to direct, menu choices and to produce good participation outcomes. Our program participation is something that we are constantly looking at to see how many scholars are dining with us every day. Unfortunately, in this school year, we did have a decrease in participation with scholars not being in our buildings. With lunch, it was a 75% decrease, and breakfast, it was 68%. But through it all, we have still remained, we've maintained a positive fund balance in the 2021 school year. This is a visual representation infographic that I created to show some of our successes throughout the COVID-19 school closure in the 2021 school year. We did do several new meal service models, and a lot of that occurred off campus. At the completion of the 2021 school year, we had 5 bus routes operating to take meals out into the scholars' addresses. We used their traditional bus routes that would be assigned to them in the traditional school year. We had 2 on-campus alternative meal service models where we did a lot of meals in the classroom, whether that be for breakfast or lunch. That was a new process that we implemented this school year, or some schools had a grab and go meal model. Through the COVID-19 waivers that were administered through USDA, we had the potential to reach other students that may not be enrolled in our schools. If they were 18 years or younger, they had the ability to eat with us. No questions asked. There were a lot of flexibilities that USDA extended. Sanitation conditions were important during the COVID-19 closures, but we continue to maintain an average health inspection score of 99%. You can see our total breakfast and lunches served, and we were able to secure $30,000 in grant awards. We can go to the next slide, please. Our opportunities and next steps in the coming school year. I see that there are opportunities to expand our operations. There are 2 programs, school meal or child nutrition programs that we currently are not operating in our district, which will also generate additional reimbursement, meal reimbursement funds. So I'm suggesting that we sponsor the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program or the CACFP At-Risk After School Meals Program. I did submit an application at the end of this school year to hopefully partner with the Glasgow Elementary School to operate the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. So I'm awaiting the response from DESE on that application. And then also to continue to make improvements to our school, capital improvements to our school meal program. Another next step I would like to take is to continue to involve our scholars through the development of a school food advisory council. So potentially having meetings with our scholars or using a survey platform to get responses on how they would like us to operate our food programs. And then last, to improve the menu performance. I would like to update our K through 8th grade menu to provide additional entrees on those menus and some new food products. And then also to continue to complete the data entry for our nutrition software updates and upgrades. And that concludes my presentation for this evening. Are there any questions or comments about the information I provided tonight?
Ms. Oswald?
I have no questions, but I'm glad to see that you're involving the scholars because they've commented on that for some time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Real? Okay. Ms. Ibram, congratulations on the 99% inspection rate passes. Well done. I think I know the answer to this, but what is your biggest challenge in food services?
Staffing at this point. Staffing is our greatest challenge right now. However, I feel like things are starting to turn over. Recently, I have about 4 interviews scheduled for this coming week. So I feel like the communication is getting out into the community about the positions that we have.
Very good. And go for those recommendations you made to extend the program.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item, technology, that's Dr. Larry.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues. At this time, Ms. Shea, if you would put the slideshow up. While the technology department has 8 employees, we also have 3 consultants, one in the print shop, and an E-rate consultant, and a telecommunications consultant as well. Our responsibilities include maintaining, supporting the technology, but the high-level ones that we do, completing the core data submissions, which we get our funding from, and monitoring network activity. At this time, is really important because we're not only trying to keep an eye out for ransomware, but any suspicious activities that might occur. We have to maintain various district systems as far like Keystone, Munis, SIS, Talent Ed, and any instructional system. We've been using help desk, the Spicework help desk system for a while, but during the summer when we had everyone working at home, we started the RGSD home support for those students who were working at home with their Chromebooks and having issues with using Classroom Meet or any of those systems. The successes that we've incurred so far, last year we installed 240 flat panels. We were very pleased with that, and that was with the assistance of federal programs. And this year we will install, before summer's end, 300 plus boards. And that's because of Prop R and the permissions given to us from Dr. Singleton and Ms. Green. And we are very pleased with that assistance. Other successes, major, again, we always submit our core data submittals before they are due. We certify before time. We collaborate with all the schools and the federal programs and facilities. We set up those 5,000 Chromebooks and those 4,000 hotspots, and we trained teachers and parents on using the Google Suites, whether it was the classroom and the classroom meet. Staff became proficient in the end, even though initially we were not exactly certain and sure that we were going to be the ones to support it until Dr. Nichols said to me one day that it would be our responsibility. So we had to jump quickly and become proficient in it. Ongoing projects are submitting of the core data, training secretaries, replacing those non-functioning boards, and I'm proud to let the principals know that I have located a firm who's going to work with me. I'm going to do some work for them, and they're going to help me remove those old boards that are in your school. I've been hearing complaints about that, and we're going to take care of that. We're installing those fax machines that Dr. Beckwith wanted for the nurses, and we're updating district computers for administrators. And today we finished setting up the lab in Highland, and we've also set up labs in Central Middle and in Lewis and Clark Elementary. Additional actions, as I said, I plan to have those interactive boards completed by this summer, and we're preparing our technology, rolling over the student databases and making sure that we set up the new databases for the next year. And we're applying for all applicable E-rate funds. Opportunities for growth include providing training, especially on those new boards, because there are a lot of them in the district now. And so we're going to have a lot of issues with people wanting to be trained. So we're working with Ms. Sharp to get that accomplished. And since I've been in the district, one of the major things I've always heard was improve the infrastructure. And that has always been my goal each year. And next year, what I want to do is start working with the data center. You can improve all your endpoints, but if you don't handle the brains of the district, it won't get us anywhere. And if those servers and things start going down in the data center, we're really going to be in and have some problems. So I want to make sure we go into the data center and upgrade that as necessary. And since I told Dr. Singleton has already committed a number of ESSER funds to me, so I should have the money to get that done. I wanted to make sure I completed the program evaluation form as we've been required to do each year. So I did still put some of the information in that form. And I talked about the person responsible for implementing all the projects in our technology department, J.F. Larry, Tina Turnipseed, T. Randolph, and Barry Shampert. We are the ones who are supposed to be the leaders of the department. I count very heavily on my employees to work well with me. The change that we made since the last evaluation, the infrastructure upgrade that we did, we upgraded the WAN and the internet, and we also added a number of PoE switches, and not only do the phones use them, but the security cameras that Dr. Patton and Mr. Newton will employ will also use them. And we had an increase in our technology budget via the Prop R funds. Our goals and objectives for that could be measured, have we improved the infrastructure? I'm sorry. And I think that we have. And we really can't get a reliable measure of the network reliability and security until everybody returns to the district, because it's difficult to measure how much is being used without everybody being here. And we wanted to increase the funding each year. I mean, increase the number of devices that each student had each year. And last year, you know, we received all those Chromebooks and deployed those. So we did increase our student ratio. And we secured over $400,000 in E-rate funding. And as I said, we always submit our core data submittals before they're due, and we even have time to go in and recertify them before they're due. And we still have that objective of closing the tickets within a week. And it's difficult to assess how we did last year with that, because so much was done off campus. We had students at home working, and we had everybody working with in fact, we would even come in to work with parents in the district when it was necessary, as well as doing training one-on-one when that was necessary. So I feel we were very successful. The receipt of funds, help desk tickets, DESA reports, as well as charter and ENA reports of how we are certain how well we're doing. And we know, like I said, we received over $400,000 in E-rate funds, including reimbursements. We upgraded the infrastructure. We employed a lot of interactive boards. We did WAN upgrades. We did an internet upgrade. And those 5,000 Chromebooks and the 4,000 hotspots, I think that was a major accomplishment. The next steps will include additional upgrades. Like I said, we want to upgrade the data center. We plan to apply for what's called the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which will allow us to buy devices, which are, we can buy Chromebooks as well as hotspots for use at home. I will caution everyone to know these are purchased with E-rate funds if we are successful in getting this grant. And once we purchase them, they have to be used and sent home. We cannot keep spares. We cannot keep them in closets somewhere. If they come in and audit us and we have them here, we will have to pay that money back. So whatever I apply for has to be used. And I will caution everyone and make sure that we are aware of that, because I was in a district where a server was found in a box and that district had to pay that money back. So we want to be aware of that. And I want to make sure that we continually collaborate with the school departments and my staff. And I'm so proud of my staff. They work hard. They came through for me. And whenever I called them, even when they were at home and didn't have to come in, they came in. And when we had to deploy all those Chromebooks and those hotspots, I was able to call on various departments and various schools, and everybody pitched in. And I just think that just showed me what Riverview is all about. And I'm very pleased with that. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mauriel.
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Okay, just a comment, Dr. Larry. Great work by your division with the technology during the pandemic. Just excellent and very much needed and welcome.
Thank you.
ESS annual review, that's going to be Ms. Williams and assisted by Ms. Hinkle, the on-site manager.
Yes, good evening, Special Administrative Board colleagues and community. Tonight, I will have Ms. Annette Hinkle. She's the on-site manager for ESS, which is the company that we use for our guest teachers, and she will share the end of the year review with you.
Good evening, Special Administration Board and other attendees. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams, for inviting me to make a presentation to the board. As you are aware, with the COVID-19 rates, that our rates were not as successful as we originally anticipated. However, there was a huge struggle with COVID-19. It was more like a tug of war that we encountered, and I'm sure you can relate to that with your recruiting efforts in reference to your permanent staff. Next slide, please. Just to give you an overall snapshot of our 2021 fill rates by school. As you can see, we started off relatively well, but as the year continued, we just could not keep up with the fill rates in the way we anticipated. And one of those reasons is because of the fear of returning to in-person learning with our guest teachers with the COVID-19 vaccine. Next slide, please. For the 2021 school year, our request 7,842. We filled 6,472 requests with an overall ending at 83%. Next slide, please. This is just another snapshot, as you can see, closer of the fill rates by month. As you can see in the beginning, the requests were relatively small. And as we encountered, as we get closer and closer to the time back in March, when school resumed, how the levels increased for the need, and the fill rate was not as successful. So, in effort to improve our recruiting, we plan to do the following. Partner with Missouri Jobs to list all of our openings, boost employee referral bonuses, consist of a $75 referral fee. Per referral, a guest teacher can earn up to $2,700 if they refer someone and they work 8 consecutive days within the semester. We also extend this to your full-time employees. They can earn up to $2,500 a year with a $50 referral bonus. So if there's any employees that are on tonight and you have someone that you like to refer, please let us know. We would like to extend that to you as well. We're going to also advertise through Sharps Media and Outfront. Sharps Media is through the DMV, and the commercial plays every 30 seconds. Currently, we have a 60-day contract with the St. Charles License Office and Ferguson License Office. And then you will see a billboard posted within the next day or so at Goodfellow and Natural Bridge and Highway 70 and West Florissant. In reference to community networking, this is something that we do year round, but with the pandemic, we were not able to get out and do the grassroots recruiting like we want, something that we're going to ramp up very expeditiously this summer. School visits will happen year round. We'd like to have an opportunity to get in with the principals and get to know what the community is like a little better. And I think that will also help with filling our rates. New memberships, we have joined the Greater Chamber of Commerce, and with the Greater, I don't know if you're familiar with the Greater Chamber of Commerce, but this is another great partnership to get the word out for ESS and that we're recruiting guest teachers. Flyers and sign distributions will be continued to place throughout your schools and communities. We're partnering with colleges and universities, UMSL, Lindenwood, Webster, and Harris Stowe. Next slide, please. We've also are planning to partner with Mrs. Turnipseed. She said that we could, and Ms. Williams, allow the students to take home backpack flyers. I think that would be a great way to get our networking out. Also posted on social media. Please like our Facebook page, which is ESS Missouri and ESS St. Louis. We currently run with Craigslist and Indeed ads on a weekly basis. Next slide, please. And this is just a snapshot of the referral program that we offer that I referenced earlier in our conversation. If you could continue. Next slide, please. We also offer an alternative way of instruction for virtual learners for positions that are hard to fill. This is called the PLI, where there is a live teacher who is virtual. You would still have to have a building-based sub or a teacher who would be there to help with the conduct and monitor in classroom. But this is another option and has been very, very successful. Kids are very focused during the learning. Next slide, please. And this is some of the areas of certification that we offer. Next slide, please. And for summer plans, we are having a substitute appreciation event that's going to be held tomorrow, July 14th at Westview Middle School. We have re-engaged with our district original, your district originals, and asked them to come out to join. From June through August, our plans are to recruit. We have also extended our staff, and I have 2 additional applicant specialists who will be partnering with myself and with Mrs. Williams to increase our recruiting efforts. And these are our point of contacts that we have thus far. Any questions?
Ms. Oswald,
I have no questions.
Ms. Morrill?
I have no questions.
Okay. Ms. Williams, I'm going to put you on the spot. Realizing that this was a COVID year, what's your degree of satisfaction with ESS?
Based on COVID, I am satisfied. Dr. Beckwith, I will tell you that even with it being a COVID year, the 83% fill rate was still higher than what we've done in the past with district efforts when when there was no pandemic.
Very good.
However, I'm definitely looking forward to that rate increasing.
Okay.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Hinkle, thank you for your presentation, and we will look forward to your firm doing good work this school year.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay.
All right.
Our next item, professional learning plan for 2021 to 2024. Ms. Sharp.
Yes, good evening to the Special Administrative Board, to colleagues, and certainly to community. Tonight I'm presenting for information the plans for professional learning to date. I'll begin by kind of guiding you through. You have the document in your presence, but I'll just refer to page numbers and give you just a brief synopsis. On page 1 simply provides just a list of district initiatives so that you're aware of some of the activities that we're focused on, which are aligned with our school improvement plan. Moving on to page 2, that begins our extended professional learning. So you can just scroll through and you'll see that we had the Best Practices Institute, we had curriculum and assessment writing, SIG, PD for Glasgow, and the list goes on and on. By the time we reach to page 7 basically gives you somewhat of an introduction to the opening of school. At that page, you will find the first day is a teacher work day. That's at the bottom of your page. Then moving on to page 8, then you will see that this is a building day. I'd like to give accommodations to the building principals in the Riverview Garden School District. They really worked to make sure that they had preliminary plans for professional development, and they worked for that for the entire opening week. They will be working to synthesize these plans and to provide a more clear and precise picture as time progresses. On the 11th, that is a district day, and as that is focused on assessment, you will see that the topics, they are divided by grade level, working on assessment in the morning, and in the afternoon, there's some vertical teaming. This will be led by illustrious leaders with instructional coaches and building principals. And so there are a series of professional development sessions that lead up to this actual day of learning. By the time we reach page 14 is again a district day, and that is a focus on curriculum. So you have all of the topics and a brief description of the topics that will be covered. We are insisting as a district team, curriculum instruction team, that year one teachers would be, this would be a requirement for them to focus on the foundation pieces, because that is something critical that they need to have that information before we can continue with additional learning. So that gives you an overview of the curriculum day. Some of the other departments have some other specialty programs that are going on, and that's listed in the plan. By the time we reach the 13th, that is a district focus, and that comes primarily from Dr. Patton's department. These are some of the mandatory requirements. So the SIT, which is students in transition, and tutor drills, and then that occurs in the morning. And the afternoon, there will be trauma-informed strategies for all district staff. So moving to page 17, again, that is a district day. That is a focus on tiered mathematics, and you'll see some divisions and how different grade levels will be participating in professional development. Those that are not focused on mathematics will focus on some choices. We have a full day of cognitive strategies. I provided the board with a copy of the book that teachers used in the Summer Institute. So you have that as evidence of some of the learning that is occurring. Then the other choice would be a half day of dyslexia, and then focused on some technology in terms of Google Classroom or engagement. We did have a slight cancellation today. There was emergency with one of the presenters, and so we're working on to modify the plan a little bit more. Moving on to page 20, that is August 17th, that is a district day. This day is focused on focused on ELA. You have a new textbook adoption. And so we'll begin training in the areas of English. We'll continue the choice option. So whatever sessions other people didn't participate in on the 16th, they will have the opportunity to participate in those on the 17th. So again, they have choices. The 18th and 19th are strategically designed, half day in the morning for professional development on a building level, and in the afternoon is teacher work day. A couple of buildings have some unique situations where they may be working with some groups, or they had a special presenter coming in. So there might be a slight change with some of those, but for the most part, that is detailed there in the plan. And then August 20th is the teacher work day. That gives you just an idea of the preliminary opening of school. There are still some other pieces that we are plugging in as we look at the MRI. We're looking at instructional coach schedule. Obviously, we have a new assistant superintendent of leadership and accountability, and I'm working very closely with her so that we can work and she can determine the administrative components, and that will be added into the plan. So my plan is to take this information to return back to the district's professional development committee. We're going to fine tune this plan, and then the plan will be to return sometime in September to present this plan for board approval and discussion, and then ultimately for approval. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mario?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
With the kick-up plan and keeping track of the virtual offerings, how, if the attendance is not what is expected or required, how is that handled?
I monitor that frequently, and I will say, and I thank you for the question. First of all, as I began to plan initially, most of the The initial PD planning was virtual. Some now has changed, and we have some that will be in person, but the monitoring of professional development, I am looking at that constantly. Principals have received some additional professional development, and now they are working more closely with me to monitor that as well. I send information documentation to principals so they have that information as supporting details. So we are monitoring that very carefully, very closely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Sharp, it appears that you have a very detailed professional development learning plan developed. To what degree do the evaluations of the sessions from teachers and principals have on the design of the professional development plan for the next year?
Well, I can't tell you the specific degree, but I will tell you that initially when we start out looking at professional development, obviously we're looking at the CSIP plan. And we're making sure that whatever we're planning, there is an alignment with the CSIP plan. We also are looking at the teacher needs assessments. And based upon the needs assessments, we look at the top categories and we take that information and we include that as part of the planning. So for example, the one choice in terms of strategies, that was something that was prevalent through a lot of the responses from teachers for this past year. And so that was included. So that's why we ended up looking at the 50 cognitive strategies to boost cognitive engagement. The other area was in terms of technology. And so people talked about, I believe in one category, and I would be more than happy to come back and share the data with you. I planned on giving that in with the program evaluation, but that data is it's crystal clear in terms of the percentage of teachers that are saying that they're interested in technology, whatever the category is. So it's really, really fine-tuned and articulated so that they have choices and they're able to tell us what the needs are. We look at all of that data. So it's the CSIP, it is the needs assessment. Sometimes there are recommendations that come from principals that say, these are some things I need in my building. We take all of that and use that in terms of planning. I also want to point out that—
Hold on, Ms. Sharp. Because of the number of items we have tonight, you've answered my question, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir.
Okay. Next item, Dyslexia Plan, Dr. Nichols.
Yes, good evening, Special Administrative Board and colleagues. This evening, I will share information regarding the district's Dyslexia Plan. Dyslexia is defined as a learning difficulty that causes problems with reading, writing, and spelling. Unlike a learning disability, intelligence isn't affected. Per the Missouri Dyslexia Statute, it's the expectation that all public schools conduct dyslexia screening for students. The district will screen all scholars in grades KG through 3 within 30 days of school. All scholars in grades 1 through 3 will be screened 3 times a year, and kindergarten scholars will be screened 2 times a year. In addition, scholars in grade 4 through 12 will be screened if experiencing consistent difficulty in the area of reading as noted by assessment scores, teacher determination, and or parent or guardian's request. Also, district certified staff will receive the mandatory 2 hours of dyslexia training this school year. Are there any questions?
Ms. Real.
No questions.
Ms. Oswald.
I have no question.
And I have no questions. Thank you, Dr. Nichols. I asked for a report on ESSER 2 tracking, and Dr. Singleton, I believe, will present that.
Thank you, Dr. Beckwith. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Beckwith, Ms. Oswald, Ms. Morrow Real, administrators, colleagues, and community. As Dr. Beckwith mentioned, the question was asked, how will we track the new ESSER 2 funds? Let me remind you that our district received approximately $15.7 million in ESSER 2 funds. And our district, and we want to make sure that we track those funds so that we maximize our reimbursements, particularly because these funds require that the district front the monies and apply for reimbursement. So as federal related programs are all connected there's a project code that Missouri Accounting Manual publishes. So you see the examples we have here. Title I has a project code. So any expenditures related to Title I are coded to 45-100, Title II 46-100, and so forth. And so Missouri Accounting Manual says all ESSER II funds should be tracked with the 42-300 code. Okay, so that's the first way we will track them. Anything that's ESSER related or reimbursed through ESSER will have a 42-300 project code. Next slide, please, Shay. In addition, DESE also gives direction on the revenue link and the project link. So again, it summarizes as coming back to the same 42300 number. So 42-300 will be critical for us to track all ESSER 2 related activities, and ESSER 3 will have a different project code as well. So here are the things that we plan on doing. First of all, department managers must get approval to use the ESSER 2 funds ahead of time. Because we are reimbursed for ESSER 2 funds, it is critical that we make sure that the department managers' request are aligned with the 15 items that DESE has published and said these are allowable items or allowable uses of ESSER 2 funds. So department managers get approval of these funds ahead of time. Number 2 says all uses of ESSER 2 funds must be approved, again, under the allowable activities section that's published by DESE. And we've shared that information on numerous occasions. Number 3, the district must spend those monies ahead of time and then get reimbursed. And that's why it's important that we identify these funds because what we don't want to do is end up having the district shove out monies that we cannot be reimbursed. And so it's important to get these things approved ahead of time. What we have done, we have received one reimbursement. I'm very proud that we got about $5.8 million before we ended fiscal year 21, which really was a tremendous help to our fund balance. And so, again, we took those salaries, we reclassified them because they had already met the requirements. They were identified ahead of time. They were paid already by the district. And so, therefore, those expenses were eligible to be reclassed using the 42-300 project code. And again, I put in quotations eligible and paid because those are both the requirements. And that's how we're going to track the ESSER 2 funds. Number 5 on the next page, from there, the district submits a reimbursement request. It's very simple. What I do is I go into the DESE grids. I show them exactly how the monies have been spent. And we submit for reimbursement. Number 6 gives the reimbursement schedule. So basically, if you submit it before the 21st of the month, then by the anything submitted the 21st of the prior month to the 1st of the current month is reimbursed by the 21st of the current month. And so the opposite exists if you submit reimbursements outside of that time period. So basically by the 21st or the end of the month is when DESE typically reimburses us for those ESSER 2 expenditures. So in a nutshell, all these expenditures will be tracked using the 42-300 fund code. And that's how we're going to keep track of where we are with our ESSER 2 dollars. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mario?
Yes, I wanted to know who was going to be the responsible person to sign off on these as approving the use. Would that be you or would that be on the superintendent's level?
I think we'll collaborate on that. I have, I've been given a lot of, the latitude to make sure that these do the research and legwork to make sure that these expenditures fall in line with our plan. And so I think Dr. Spurgeon and I will collaborate and share those responsibilities of making sure that these things are approved ahead of time.
Ms. Oswald?
Question.
Okay. Dr. Singleton, very clear report, and thank you for that. And I guess with Munis, it'll be easy to pull out the 4300 number codes.
Yes, sir. So in fact, they're assigned those codes ahead of time. And so once we make sure that those codes are paid, they have a district code first. Once they're paid, we will reclass them to the 42300 code. All of this takes place in the new Munis software system. And so it will be fairly easy to just run a report. If you want to know year to date, what have we spent using ESSER $2? All we have to do is isolate that code, and Munis should be able to run that report for us.
Okay. And I will go back to Ms. Morrow-Reel's question because it was a good question. There needs to be one person, particularly in the finance office, whose signature goes on the approval for an item. Who will that be?
That will be me, Dr. Beckwith. In fact, I am also taking the liberty of making sure that the reports that go to DESE, I'm doing those. Even though federal programs and Kim plays a role in that, I'm making that a priority, because what I don't want to do is have the district be liable. So I'm accepting those responsibilities.
Okay, and that's good, because I heard you say you and Dr. Spurgeon, and I'm looking for that one person to hold accountable that we are abiding by the guidelines. And my understanding, that is you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
No other questions. Thank you. We're now down to our 17 discussion items. So I'm going to ask you to be as succinct as possible. Land donation, Dr. Singleton.
Good evening again, Special Administrative Board. So very quickly, I am very proud to report that about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we got a call from a gentleman named Jay Feinberg. Mr. Feinberg is a developer, and he has developed numerous pieces of land in this area. He lives in California at this time, but he still has a heart for development back here. Mr. Feinberg and his brother are getting up in age, and they have 10.17 acres of land located at 1068 Industrial Boulevard, right here in the Bell Fountain area, which this land is in our school district. And again, I started by saying I'm very proud because we got a call one day that says, hey, I've got 10 acres of land. It's in your school district, and I absolutely want to donate this land to the students in Riverview Garden School District. From there, I did a site assessment myself, as much of this land as I could see. It is in an industrial area, but a lot of it backs into residential. In fact, if you stand on the playground at Glasgow and look back as far as you can, those trees and everything that goes beyond, it's included in this land donation. And so I've worked with Dr. Patton's team in securing the land donation form. Certainly, Shay Fields and Mrs. Macklin has done an outstanding job of helping to coordinate this. We did a closed session presentation. That's where you see a lot of the pictures are. And at this time, we are just excited and hope that the SAB will accept this donation. We don't have immediate plans for this as of yet. Obviously, if things were to change, we're going to bank the land as of right now. But in exchange for a real estate tax donation, that's what the Feingold brothers are looking for. We've done our assessment and our due diligence on the property. And so the recommendation or the presentation here would certainly be at the discretion of the SAB to accept the land donation of 10.17 acres at 1068 Industrial Boulevard. Are there any questions for me?
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrow-Real?
No question.
Okay. Dr. Singleton, whose assessment will go on the signing document? The district, what it says the land is worth, or the donor, what he says the land is worth?
So, Dr. Beckwith, that's a good question, and I don't want to give the wrong answer. So let me assess. Generally, I would assume there would be some kind of meeting of the minds. If we have an appraisal report and they have an appraisal report, so I think that there will be some kind of meeting of the minds on that. But let me get you a more accurate answer electronically this week sometime.
And that's fine. And no rush on that, just a question.
Sure.
Summary of the fund balance report, Dr. Singleton, I think that's you also.
Yes, sir. All three of mine are in a row. So summary of fund balance report. I wanted to report out our last fund balance report for the previous fiscal year. We had some challenges getting in a lot of this data from Munis. As you recall, all the way through the end of March, we were operating in a totally different system, Keystone. And so come that second quarter, April, May, and June, we started operating in Munis. And so we just had some difficulties with transferring numbers from one system to the other. But the finance team was able to get a report that we have some confidence and faith in. And so what I wanted to share with you, you've seen this at just about every one of the board meetings, so I don't want to go into full detail, but basically we look at our beginning fund balances of this $14 million here, the revenue that's been added year to date of $64 million, the expenditures that have been spent of $60 million, which gives us a fund balance of about $18.4 million. Now, we do see a negative number there. That's because we didn't have any revenue into our capital projects this year. A lot of those revenues happened and came in previous years. But again, the fund balance numbers here on this summary page look very favorable in our behalf. On the very next page, we look at our grant expenditures. Again, we talk about the $5.8 million in expenditures that were reclassed for the ESSER II reimbursement, and that's where they are. So you see that information right there. We were able to reclass those expenditures through June 30th. And so, again, I think we'll see a very positive impact on June 30th's fund balance, and which will give us a pretty good start for our July 1st fund balance into the new fiscal year as well. So that's how we track those expenditures. The next page shares some information on the revenues. Again, I'll call your eyes again to the ESSER II lines of $5.8 million. We see that number there. So basically the original grant budgets of title all added up to the $8 million. We've had a few revisions. We've got those $12 million in receipts, and we still have roughly about $1 million in outstanding collections. And that's one of the things that the finance area is doing, is making sure that we capture all of those revenues so that the district is not out of pocket for anything. On the very next page, again, same information, it's just being presented in a different way. So we track those receipts, if you will, through the mechanisms in which they come. So the general fund gets a significant portion of money. The teachers fund gets another significant portion of monies. In fact, our teachers fund generally gets a bigger portion of the pie, simply because our biggest expense in the school district are salaries and benefits, and most of them are certificated staff. So we also have debt services and food service funds. Again, we've talked about it on several occasions. Our food service revenues were just not where they should have been or compared to previous years, and we're doing all we can to recoup those funds. We did get some communication today that there is some availability, there's some help on the way to help us with those food service funds. So I will be presenting more information, Shannon and myself, as time goes on. But I think we're going to be able to attract some revenue, some makeup monies for our losses in food service into this fiscal year. So that's good news that the SAB should be aware of. The next page, 6, just talks about the expenditures. Again, same way we track revenues for fund, we track expenditures for fund. And you'll see there the $26 million for the general fund, teachers fund, the $27 million. Again, those are our biggest two funds that we operate from related to the Review Garden School District. Next page, Shay talks about comparisons. Let's look at the funds, but let's look at them by year. And let's look and see, if you start over at the far right column, the 2019 numbers, as we go forward, we see what those revenues have historically been, those receipts. And so it looks favorable. We've been able to attract about the same amount of money in the general fund over the course of those three revenues. If you look at the teachers fund, we've generally have seen and attracted some substantial increases there. And we see that uptick right there of $31 million in the 2021 year. And that's as a result of the big ESSER II reimbursement that we received this fiscal year as well. So again, debt service, we track the same information I'm giving you. We're just presenting it to you by fund as well. And on the very last page, it's the same way we track our expenditures by fund. And so we see where we've spent the monies. Again, $25 million average in the general fund over the same fiscal years. Our teachers funds have kind of averaged in the mid-20s for those years. And then we see debt service. Obviously, we use the debt services fund to pay off our long and short-term debt, any outstanding bond obligations that we have, and so forth. So food service is represented there as well. And again, you'll see in 2021 next to food service where those expenditures were down considerably compared to previous years. That concludes my report or information on the fund balance summary for June 30th. Are there any questions for me?
Ms. Morrow-Real?
I have no questions.
Yes. Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Okay. Mr. Singleton, I didn't get the last part of the percentage fund balance. It's 18 point what?
Where was that? Was that information in the presentation, Dr.
No,
Beckford?
yeah, you mentioned it. You said
yeah. Oh, so about 18.4 million. It's not the percentage, that's the actual dollar amount. I don't have a percentage here. But yeah, so 18.4 million is where we roughly will end. Now that's unaudited, okay? So obviously when the auditors come in, we may be looking at a different number.
Okay, in the May 25th SAB workshop, the fund balance percentage was 20.22%, but the final document was 18.74%. What get for me what the percentage as of June 30th, what it actually was, if you have that now or when you do have it.
Okay, so as of this June 30th, you want to know what the projected? Sure. I don't have that information before me, but I will get that. I'll make a note to get that information to you, Dr. Beckwith.
And the last thing, your presentation is always very clear, but I would ask that every page not be page one. So if I have questions, I can refer to the particular page.
Sure, not a problem. We'll work that out. Thank you.
St. Louis County SRO agreement. Is that Dr. Patton or you, Dr. Singleton?
It is.
That's Dr. Patton.
Okay.
It's me, Dr. Beckwith. Good evening, SAB members, colleagues, and stakeholders. Tonight, I bring to you in front of you for discussion the MOU as Security Resource Officer Agreement with the St. Louis County Police Department. The Safety and Security Department has a primary goal of maintaining the safety of our school and ensuring that our students, staff members are safe. We have maintained an agreement with the St. Louis County Police Department over the last, 4 or 5 years, it looks like. That's how far I've been able to track it. And tonight I present to you the MOU with St. Louis County police officers for the SROs for the 2021-2022 school year, with the agreement ending after the 2023-2024 school year. It's a 3-year agreement that can be canceled at any time and renegotiated any time each year. The total for this will be $391,767.60. It is recommended that the SAB approve the service agreement between Riverview Gardens and the St. Louis County Police Department for 5 school resource officers, as well as 5 police cars for a cost not to exceed $391,767.60. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
Yes, so we only have a contract with the St. Louis County. We don't have them with, we used to have it with Bella Fountain.
No, ma'am. We haven't had one in the last year that I have been here with Bell Fountain. Ms. Oswald, this agreement is with the St. Louis County Police Department, and the last agreement, which was signed for 3 years that expired, that has expired as of June of 2021. It was with the St. Louis County Police Department.
So it's just one department that covers everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Morrow Real?
She basically asked the question that I was going to ask, because I thought it was Bell Fountain as well.
Okay, and Dr. Patton, I must admit, the last budget that I have for 21-22 was on that I printed out was May 25th. But I believe I saw in there where the St. Louis County SRO agreement, the line item for that was reduced from 450,000 to 350,000. If I'm correct, then the 350,000 is less than the 391,000 that you're recommending.
Yes, sir. You are correct.
Okay.
So Dr. Beck,
let me finish. That doesn't compute for me. If you're recommending more than it's in the budget, I have a problem with that.
Yes, sir. So Dr. Singleton was jumping in to answer that question. This particular line item, Dr. Beckwith, also includes the Securitas budget. It was reduced, and I'm going to let Dr. Singleton speak to that, sir.
Okay, so Dr. Beckwith, Dr. Patton and I met on this a couple days. Actually, we met today and yesterday regarding this. One of the things that I implored with not just Dr. Patton, but with all budget managers is when the sooner we have those contracts, the better we're able to plan for those. And so when we have an SAB workshop in May and the contracts are in April or May and the contracts are not presented until June or July, then we cannot adequately capture what these numbers will be. I will admit that we made budget cuts across the board in a number of line items, but I do think Dr. Patton still has the available funds because her building security line item has enough money in there to transfer to cover whatever deficits exist. So we talked about how to resolve this morning. We don't need a supplement here just yet. We can transfer from the $230,000 in her building security line item because we know with certainty that we won't be needing that kind of money going into this new fiscal year. So that's the resolution that Dr. Patton and I came to this morning, was to transfer enough money from the 230 into the other line item to cover both of those contracts.
So am I to understand at some point in time, a budget transaction report will be submitted to show that?
Absolutely, Dr. Beckwith. In fact, we hope to have one, since we do have the contracts here, we hope to have that budget transaction report at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Dr. Beckwith, let me also add that as I received this contract, I was negotiating with St. Louis County to get the contract reduced. And they would not budge on reducing the cost that's included in this contract, because they said that they've maintained the same cost for the last 3 years. And so they've had to give their officers raises over the last 3 years. And so there's been a slight increase of about 2.6% in this account or with this contract. So I just wanted to state that part of that was me trying to renegotiate the contract with St. Louis County.
Can I ask a question? I just thought of one.
Yes.
I just thought of one. So when a contract renews, do you all just put a bid out, or we just automatically go with St. Louis County? Because if the contract we have with them ended in June of 21, could we have put a bid out to maybe work with a Bell Fountain or
Ms. Morrill, I'll be honest with you. This is the contract that we have when I came into the position. And because of the last 2 years, if you look at when I initially came in, we were ending the first year of COVID and then going into the second year of COVID. I don't really have a true picture of what the security needs are in our district yet, because we haven't been fully campus. We don't have all of our 5,300 students on campus. So I really did not want to tweak anything related to security other than try to reduce the price, because I want to ensure, I want to get a good picture of it, which I think when we bring our students back on campus for the 21-22 school year, I'll be able to get a better visual of the needs security-wise of our school district, and then I can make better and informed decisions as we move into the next contract.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Patton, as I mentioned, be sure to involve the principals in any decision about replacing the St. Louis County Police.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes quality makes a difference also, and they would be the boots on the ground who will know, can tell you how well the St. Louis County Police are doing or are not doing it in our schools.
Absolutely, and sir, as I shared with you, I will be sending the building leadership a survey in December as well as in May to get an idea of how they're performing in their schools, so that as we move into the 22-23 school year, we can make I can make a better informed decision on which organization we will use.
And for the record, it is not appropriate to submit to the board a recommendation for more money that is in that line item. And it may be an emergency that you want to get this done now, but normally the budget transaction would be done first to put the money in the line item as opposed to what's being done tonight.
Absolutely, and Dr. Beckwith, let me apologize for that, because I was not aware that there would only be one board meeting, SAB meeting in the month of July. That is my fault, and I will make sure that I make that correction.
All right. Securitas service agreement.
Yes, in keeping with the security of our school district, we also have an agreement with Securitas, who we use at the middle and high school levels. So the safety and security, they work hand in hand with our DSOs and with the SROs in keeping all of our campuses safe, including the elementary buildings. So I am recommending that the SAB approve the MOU agreement between Securitas not to exceed the cost of $162,000 for the 2021-2022 school year.
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
Okay. Dr. Patton, and what line item in the safety and security budget is Securitas coming out of?
Securitas comes out of the same line item as the SRO budget. Dr. Beckwith is 6319. It's Fund 2546, line item 6319. They come out of the same budget.
So while the budget was 350,000.
Yes, sir.
Now you have added 162,000 to the amount that you didn't have enough of for the St. Louis County Police Department. Am I correct?
You are correct, sir.
Here
So
again, I restate, the money should be in the line item when these requests are approved. I understand the situation.
yes, sir.
But this should not happen again.
Yes, sir.
Next line item, the district-wide security camera system. Who's doing that?
I am doing that as well, sir. So in keeping with the security of Riverview Gardens, and as you know, back in spring of 2018, Riverview Gardens successfully passed Proposition R. That provided capital needed to repair, renovate, and revitalize our school district. We have submitted an RFP a couple of months ago to have our entire camera system throughout our school district updated, and all of the camera systems will be new. We submitted that. We had 4 companies reply. We have decided to go with Advanced Security and Technologies. They will be replacing over 330 cameras within our school district. This will give us the ability to if an alarm goes off at one of our schools, we will be able to access that from a remote location using our phones as well as our laptops. The project will be funded through the Proposition R funds for a total cost of $265,091 through Advanced Security and Technology. And they will do this per school. So they will complete one school, move to the next school, and then move to the next school. So it is recommended that the SAB approve the contract between with Advanced Security and Technology for the replacement and upgrade of RGSD's entire camera system for the bid cost of $265,091. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald,
No question.
Ms. Morrill,
And you said this is all schools, high school, middle schools, and the grade schools, all in the early childhood.
This is all of our schools, Mrs. Morrill, to the tune of over 330 cameras.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Patton, are there enough funds left in Prop R to cover the $265,000 amount?
Yes, sir. This particular fund has almost, I believe it's a little bit over $900,000, Dr. Beckwith, to cover the cameras as well as some other security upgrades that we will be bringing forth to the SAB.
Okay. No other questions. Supplemental health care?
Yes, sir. Supplemental health care, this is our nursing. We have a contract with supplemental health care to address the health services needs of our students, current school nurse vacancies, as well as substitute coverage for nurses. We have teamed with supplemental health care for the last 3 or 4 years. This will keep, as you know, or you may or may not know, SAB members and community, we have trouble really filling some of our nursing positions. So we've had to use supplemental health care to help cover some of our schools to ensure that we had medical professionals in our building. This contract will be for the 2020-2022 school year. And so it is recommended that the SAB approve the supplemental health care contract not to exceed the amount of $353,079. Are there any questions?
Ms. Morrill?
How many employees?
There are 5 employees, Mrs. Morrill, but they also cover our nurses when we have nurses out. They also give us substitute nurses to cover for us.
How the nurses are in?
No, ma'am. The nurses currently that we have are all LPNs. But when we have an absence, then they will send a registered nurse or an LPN to cover those schools.
Thank you.
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Okay, give me the amount again of the contract.
The contract is $353,079, sir.
Okay, I'm looking at other professional tech services and the student support, attendance, students and health, and it has 200,000. Is that, and your contract says 353,000. Where's the other money coming from? Unless I'm not looking at this correctly.
No, sir, you are and you aren't. So there's it was budgeted for $275,000 over the last 2 years. The contract that we just ended, sir, was $346,000. What I need to do is also ask for a supplement for this because it was never covered in the budget for the previous year, Dr. Beckwith. And I'll be honest with you and let you know that this is something that I've just discovered that it really hasn't been budgeted for the last couple of years to the tune of the contract. What I would think happened is with the COVID year, we only used $275,000 of the previous budget. And so it was assumed that that's what was needed in the budget, but that is not true. The last contract was $346,000. This contract was increased because of raises to their nurses to the tune of $353,000. And I will have to ask for a supplement in order to fund this, to ensure the safety of our students from a medical perspective.
As I'm looking for the last 2 years, and again, this is May 25th, there was $453,000 in that line item. And I know you depend on finance to put the correct figures in there. So, and I won't beat a dead horse, but here's another example where we're recommending something and we don't have money in a line item to pay for it.
Dr. Beckwith, I haven't seen the line item for $453,000, but I will check into that. The line item that I saw that it was budgeted for the 2021 school year was $275,000. But I will work with Dr. Singleton tomorrow to get the true numbers. But from what I can tell, it was the fund was never properly funded to begin with. And so I believe that because of the COVID year, when everyone went home, we didn't fulfill the entire contract. And so it was assumed that we only needed $275,000, when in fact, that wasn't enough to cover the $346,000 contract that just ended on June 30th.
And who assumed that?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir.
Who assumed that? You said it was assumed that you only needed X amount. Who assumed that?
I don't know, sir. I can't answer that question for you. I can only tell you that when I came into the position, there was a budget item for $275,000.
And I do understand this is your first year in this.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to lay all this on your shoulders, but the point to all administrators is do not recommend to the board if you know that there's not enough money in the line item to pay for that. That's how we get into trouble.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on with trauma-informed practices.
Yes, sir. Dr. Beckwith, SAB members, colleagues and community, of everything that I have presented tonight, this is the most exciting for me because it will allow us to support our students and our staff members to support the students in our school district. We are embarking, RGSD is embarking on ensuring that everyone who engages with students within our school district is truly trauma informed. The rationale is that trauma informed schools are places that provide safe and supportive environments for children to learn and educators to work. They infuse the science about trauma and its impact into daily practices. A trauma-informed school fundamentally will change the outcomes of our school district. Deirdre Liddell and I, our district interventionist who is on also, will talk about this briefly, but I am excited that we are able to do this. And she's going to tell you, Dr. Beckwith, when you talked about the cost of things, Deirdre has great news for you. So Deirdre Liddell, will you continue to speak on this, please?
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, and school community. The expected outcome for trauma-informed practices are improved school culture, improved academic performance, increased attendance rate, increased graduation rate, and a decrease in the suspension rate. RGSD has partnered with Alive and Well, who utilizes the Missouri model for trauma-informed schools. We'll begin training all district personnel on trauma-informed practices and the importance of understanding students who live in trauma. The cost of the training is $95,000. The funding source for this is special school district. Building trauma-informed teams or TIP teams are made up of special school district teachers, general education teachers, behavior interventionists, principals, counselors, social workers, and home to school coordinators, as well as other staff that building principals have chosen. There is also a training that will be offered to special administrative board and cabinet members. The building trauma-informed practice teams have a crucial role in improving climate and culture by creating and maintaining a school environment that feels safe, supported, and ready to learn physically, socially, emotionally, and academically for all students, staff, and families that are at risk or experiencing traumatic stress symptoms. Trauma teams play a critical role, not just for this year, but for years 2, 3, and so on, as we continue to layer other social-emotional, behavioral, and learning initiatives, and expand to the community. Trauma-informed practices are important because it creates a space for positive change. It allows us to acknowledge that mental health and wellness are connected to scholar success in the classroom and to a thriving school community and environment. Other supplemental strategies that we have planned for the year that will support the trauma-informed initiatives are district-wide calming rooms, so calming rooms in every school in the district, a book study for closing the attitude gap, how to fire up students to strive for success, along with a roundtable discussion surrounding that book, as well as nonviolent crisis intervention trainings. All of this will be paid by a special school district.
And I would like to add to that, Mrs. Sharp presented the trauma-informed practices within her presentation as well. We will also be using the first and third late start Wednesdays. Alive and Well, along with the trauma teams, will be at all of our schools, either virtually or in person. And we will cover topics from defining trauma to changing the question, to long-term impact on trauma and health, stress response system, community and historical trauma, and we will lead that right into restorative justice. So this is what we are presenting, the RGSD will be embarking on this, and I am excited because I think along with all of the work C&I are doing and the building principals are doing, this will truly impact our students academically as well. So I'm recommending that the SAB approve this exciting venture, which is completely free. SSD using disproportionality funding will cover the cost of this for us. So I'm recommending that the SAB approve this at no cost to us. Are there any questions?
Ms. Morrill?
How many sessions do you anticipate you will need, you will be having?
Ms. Morrill, I heard how many sessions are we?
Yes, because trauma-informed is very, very, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. And so on August 13th, as Ms. Sharp brought up, there will be a 4-hour training that will train many people in our district. As Deirdre mentioned, we are also training our trauma teams. But then every month from August straight through to March, there will be 2 trainings per month at each school, and that will be on the late start Wednesday. So it will be exhaustive. It is a large task to take on, but I believe that it will greatly impact Riverview Gardens, along with all the work that C&I, that they're doing from an academic perspective. Once we hit the social emotional part of our students and be able to support them in that way, I think, and I am hopeful that we will see a positive academic outcome for our school district.
Thank you.
Ms. Oswald?
Just a comment. I'm happy and excited as you are to see that we're addressing the social emotional part of our students. Thank you.
Dr. Patton, I'm very pleased to hear that the special school district will pay for this. Is this on a reimbursement basis or pay up front?
No, they are paying the contract with Alive and Well up front. They're paying for the purchases of all of the supplies to cover the calming rooms. They're paying for the book study. The only thing that's going to be a reimbursement, sir, will be the training of the trauma teams that will take place at the end of July. And that money will come, Dr. Singleton and I are working together. Hopefully we can get that covered through our ESSER funds. But if not, SSD will be reimbursing our school district the cost just for that training. The rest of the cost for all of the training the entire year will be paid directly from SSD.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next item, Riverview Garden School District ACE agreement. That's Dr. Smith.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, community and colleagues. For the past several years, Riverview Garden School District has partnered with ACE Learning Centers to provide educational services for students in Riverview Gardens alternative program. Historically, the partnership has been very successful, with ACE helping Riverview Gardens High School increase its graduation rate and attendance rate, as well as supporting middle school students who are not being successful in their traditional homeschool. In full transparency, During the pandemic, the alternative program took a significant hit in the area of graduation. That's something that we are planning to turn around this upcoming school year, and we're developing some new programming to do just that. I am recommending and asking the board to approve the agreement between ACE and Riverview Garden School District for the 2021-2022 school year in the amount of $1,158,975,000. Questions?
Ms. Oswald,
No question.
Ms. Mario,
That's the cost that it cost us the year before with the increase.
It's the same cost, no increase.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith, I believe you and Dr. Triplett were working on an alternative to using ACE in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
that wouldn't take place until the 2022-2023 school year.
And I do understand. Okay. And maybe this is a question better answered by Dr. Singleton, if he can't tell me now. And that's where is the $1,158,927 coming from? Which budget?
So, Dr. Beckwith, I don't have the budget in front of me. I do know that Dr. Smith has a budget where we, and I believe it may be under leadership and accountability. I don't have it in front of me, but he does have a budget with a line item that has $900,000. So Dr. Smith will need a supplement as well for this contract. And the emphasis that I will say, Dr. Beckwith, is these contracts are not available at the time we do our budget workshops. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons that there's a disparity in what we've budgeted for these workshops versus what actually when these contracts come. These contracts are coming in June and July when we're having workshops in April and May, and it becomes extremely difficult for us to grab what these numbers are. So I'll work with Dr. Smith, because I do know that this was one of the areas that is underfunded. So it's a line item with $900,000 in it. I saw this earlier this week, and I'm sending him an email now for us to get together for another supplement report.
Okay, and do send me via email where I can find that line item for $900,000 in the budget.
Yes, sir. I'll do that before we end this call. I'm gonna look for it now. Thank you.
But here's another example where a recommendation is being made where the budget does not support the recommendation. And I understand what Dr. Singleton just said, but we need to get out of this mode of making recommendations when the money is not there proactively. Next item, the staffing plan, Dr. Williams, no, Ms. Williams, sorry.
Good evening again, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, and community. I will be presenting the item for discussion for the 2021-2022 staffing plan adjustments. The first issue is Westview Middle School would like to reduce their Spanish course for this upcoming school year and add an AVID course in its place. And then there are 2 grant-funded positions to be added. One is a social worker and the other is a behavior attendance interventionist. Now, with the Westview changes, it's budget neutral. However, with the grant-funded positions, the social worker is budgeted at $89,000 as salary and benefits, and the behavior attendance interventionist is budgeted at $80,000 with salary and benefits. It is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve the adjustments to the 2021-2022 staffing plan. A recommendation for approval will be presented later in the meeting. Are there any questions?
Let me take the lead on this because I've been going back and forth with Dr. Nichols and the principal, Mr. Lenoir, on this change. Through Ms. Williams, Dr. Spurgeon asked for my approval for this change. My response was, it was not the chair's responsibility to approve something like this because it was a curricular decision. and therefore Dr. Nichols should do the approval. The email that I saw gave a mixed message. I never saw where she said, I will approve it or I will disapprove it. But when I saw the staffing plan, evidently foreign language is being taken out. Part of my concern here is a few years ago, there were 2 Spanish teachers at the high school. Now we have 1. And it's been explained to me that while it is not a requirement of DESE to have a foreign language, we have 1,100 students at the high school, and we have 1 Spanish teacher. Many colleges require a foreign language when you go to college. I understand about AVID, and Mr. Lenoir presented a very good argument for why he needs the AVID. What I'm asking the board is, Mr. Lenoir knows better than I what he needs at his school. But what I'm asking the board is not to defund Spanish at Westview Middle. Leave it as a 0. Because in Dr. Nichols' response, she said, you may later have Spanish if you can find the money for it. It shouldn't be that way. I noticed we have a Spanish teacher at Central. We don't have one at Westview. If I were a parent, I would ask, why do you have one over at Central and you don't have one for my child at Westview? So what I'm simply requesting is a double request. Put the Spanish teacher, second Spanish teacher for the high school back in the staffing plan, show it as a 0. Won't cost us any money. But if we can find a Spanish teacher next year, then the principal doesn't have to go around and find money for it. It is there. To me, and I mentioned this as an aside, as a professor at UMSL, I had an Iraqi student, a young lady, and I complimented her on how well she spoke English. And she said, in Iraq, you have to take English starting in the 4th grade. So our competitors around the world have a grasp on a foreign language that we don't have. It is projected that by 2050, some of us won't be around, that the Hispanics will be the leading minority, if they're not already. The best I could say when I went to Spain was agua for water, and well, I can't even pronounce the other one. But what I'm saying, we need to keep Spanish on the books. I'm not saying go out and find a teacher that you can't find, but I am strongly recommending that those 2 positions not be defunded as they are now. Because once again, I'll get off my soapbox, they can only go back in if the principal says, I can find the money. It shouldn't be that way. That is a district responsibility, not a principal's responsibility. So what I'm recommending with the staffing plan, that we put a 0 by foreign language as it is for Westview, but we add another 0 for the high school, so that there will still be possibly in the future 2 teachers in Spanish at the high school and 1 at Westview. And so I would ask that when we approve this later on, that be a part of the approval. Are there any questions for me on that?
I just wanted to say that we don't have a very, very large percentage, but in the city of Delwood, I have noticed that we have, I think it's about 4 or 5 Spanish families, or I would say Latin, or I'm not sure what the proper wording is to say, but we have some people moving in.
And they are increasing. The Rittner School District has an influx of Hispanic speaking. I had some tree trimming done at my house a couple of weeks ago, and all of the workers were Hispanic, and only 1 of them could speak English. So that's my recommendation on this. Are you on the line? I see you, Ms. Williams. Do you understand what I'm asking for here?
Yes, sir. And if I need further clarification, I'll reach out to the SAB via email.
All right. Let's go to the next item. The file audit project extension.
Yes, the file audit project extension, it actually started in May and it lasted, the first part lasted for a month. We had a temporary file clerk here from K-Force Temporary Agency. However, more time is needed to complete the audit. The bill rate is the same as before, $31.67 an hour. It is estimated that the project will take about 6 more weeks, not to exceed $7,800, which will be paid from the Human Resources budget. It is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve the Human Resources Department to extend the contract with K-Force Temporary Staffing Agency to utilize a temporary file clerk to audit and complete the personnel files and I-9s in the amount not to exceed $7,800. A recommendation for approval will be presented later in the meeting. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Mario?
No questions.
Okay. What line item is this coming from, Ms. Williams?
This is coming from professional services, Dr. Beckwith.
Okay. And how much is in that line item?
Oh, I can grab my budget if you can hold on for a moment.
No, just.
Okay,
just
I think it's 50,000, Dr. Beckwith, if I remember correctly.
I think that will suffice.
Okay, all right.
The salary increase for district substitute clerical worker.
And this is, this item for discussion is for a salary increase for our district substitute clerical worker. We only have one in the district, and that is Ms. Carolyn McLean. And we utilize her whenever there's a long-term clerical vacancy, or if we need day-to-day clerical support in a critical need area. So for example, she's been covering community services with Executive Director Ishmael Sistrunk since October. And she's been with the district in this capacity since 2015. So 6 years, and her rate has not increased. It has been $13.43 an hour, which is not a competitive rate. If we had to cover those types of absences with a temporary agency, we would actually spend $27 to $30 an hour as the bill rate. And so she's been dependable, and we want to, secure her services and also remain competitive. So asking for an increase in the hourly rate from $13.43 an hour to $15 an hour. And in terms of the budget impact, it was hard to estimate there because, again, her work schedule just depends on clerical support that is needed. However, we do have a budget line item that she's been paid out of since 2015, and that one is the Human Resources part-time non-certified item. So it is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve a salary increase for the district substitute secretary from $13.43 an hour to $15 an hour.
Ms. Mario?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
And is the money coming from that same line item as the one before?
It's not professional services. We actually have a line item that's Human Resources part-time non-certified.
Okay, and how much is in that?
I will double check and get back with you, but we do have enough to cover it.
Oh, that's all I want to hear, that we have enough to cover.
Okay.
And before I forget this Special Administrative Board, one of the recommendations I had last year was to have agenda meetings before each board meeting. And the purpose of the agenda meeting is to catch all the things that have holes in them, so they don't reach to this level. That as superintendent, we would have it and we would play like the jury. And if your agenda item wasn't tight, it didn't go to the board. I shouldn't have to be at this level, catching agenda items where it's not tight or we don't have the money for what we're recommending and so forth. The agenda meeting is where that should be taught. Let's go to the next line item, temporary staffing for human resources. Here, Ms. Williams again.
Yes, this is my last item for tonight's Special Administrative Board. This discussion is regarding temporary staffing in the Human Resources Department for benefits administration. We do have an urgent need at this time for temporary assistance for approximately 2 months. And we would like to use K-Force as the provider. They continue to provide a competitive rate, and we waived or forego the quote process from the other vendors because this is an emergency situation. According to policy DJF, we would like to minimize the serious disruption in services to our benefits program to our employees. The budget impact for 2 months, the cost is not to exceed $13,000 to be paid from the Human Resources budget, professional services. It is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve the Human Resources Department to contract with K-Force Temporary Staffing Agency to utilize a temporary benefits administrator for 2 months in the amount of $35 to $38 per hour as the bill rate. A recommendation for approval will be presented later in the meeting.
Ms. Oswald, any questions?
Question.
Ms. Mario?
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so this is going to be 2 months, and I would like there to be a way that when there's 2 months is up, that if her services are still needed to be continued, that you make sure that that the board is made aware of it.
And we are going to, this is something that just happened a few days ago and it was unexpected. So we are still working out the details of this. So I should have more of an update for the board moving forward. And then also a plan if we need to continue services.
Okay, thank you.
I think the board needs to know what kind of emergency this is.
Well, Dr. Beckwith, due to HIPAA laws, I cannot share publicly what's happening right now, but however, I can share it in the executive content section.
Okay, I'll live with that. Thank you. Houghton Mifflin, hardcourt proposal for K-12 tiered mathematics. Ms. Sharp?
Yes, good afternoon. Good evening again. This request is for discussion. This is for tiered professional development in the area of mathematics for teachers in grades pre-K through 12. This cost is, this is an error on the document. The actual amount is $36,700. I will send Ms. Fields the corrected information. The details of this request is listed there for your awareness. This will be taken from the PD 1% budget for the 2021-22 school year. I will entertain any questions that you have at this particular time.
Ms. Mario?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. 50 strategies to boost cognitive engagement. Ms.
Yes,
Sharp?
this item was previously presented to the board. This individual presented this summer. We had a remarkable opportunity to engage in these strategies. So this request is for her to provide 2 days of virtual professional development to our staff. This professional development will occur on August 16th through 17th. The total amount is not to exceed $9,950. That will be taken from the PD 1% budget. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Ms. Mario?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Dyslexia, either that's Ms. Clark of Central Middle or Dr. Nichols. Who's going to do that?
I already presented the dyslexia.
Greetings, Dr. Beckwith. This is for Project Lead the Way.
No, I see item P. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped that. Right, Project Lead the Way. Correct. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Project Lead the Way. This is an opportunity for Westview and Central Middle School. I'm sorry, I apologize. Greeting SAB, greeting colleagues and constituents. It's getting kind of late, past my bedtime. Just kidding. No. This program is an intensive hands-on model that boosts classroom engagement and excitement, drives collaboration and inspires an aha moments and deep comprehension for students. The program also will align with the Project Lead the Way program that is at the high school. This Budget impact, the cost of the request will not exceed $2,100 per middle school, in which $950 per middle school will be taken from Title 1A and $1,200 per middle school will be taken from the 2021-2022 PD 1% funds. It is recommended that the SAB approve the participation of Westview Middle School and Central Middle School in the program Project Lead the Way in the amount not to exceed $2,150 per middle school.
And the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions, Ms. Marreal?
No, but I think that this has Dr. Joyner all over it.
You know this, you know it. He's on deck just in case if I needed him.
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Okay. I do have item P, it says dyslexia glean. Should that be there?
That is correct. This is Ms. Sharp again. So this dyslexia glean should be glean education. This is a request to fulfill the Missouri Department of Education dyslexia requirements. I provided information in terms of the project scope and the objectives. This request will provide a training window from August 11th through the 20th for virtual learning for all district staff. This request would not exceed 475 staff, and that would involve our special education educators as well. As staff are hired, new staff are hired in the window, then I would have to go back and to look at the numbers again. But at this point, I projected an estimate of 475 certified staff. The cost of this request is $15,825, and it will be taken from the PD 1% budget. Are there any questions?
Ms. Marreal?
I have no question.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
We're down to our last discussion item, and that is federal programs Title I grant acceptance. Ms.
Good evening,
Loomis?
everyone. Sir, I'll be very expeditious. At the May 25th meeting, I asked for your approval to apply for the title grants. The applications have been submitted. On that request to apply, I neglected to ask for permission to accept and use. That is what this item refers to for the Title I little a, Title I big A, Title II, and Title IV budget applications. Any questions?
Ms. Marreal?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Okay, keep it where it is, Shay. I believe it's Title IV. Those schools that I see on the screen who were selected for what reason?
Sir, the Title IV grant is a district-wide program. The initiatives that are going to be enacted with that grant concern district-wide SEL programs. Are you asking me about the Title I little a or the Title IV?
I see Title I 1003 with parentheses A.
Right, those are the lower performing schools that qualify for the Title I school improvement little a grant funding.
Okay, that was my understanding. My question goes to how are the allocations, on what basis are they divided? I see the high school gets 400,000. The central middle gets 400,000. The high school has projected 1,100 students, the central at 754. This is not done on enrollment. How do you allocate that?
So this is based on a couple of different components. Sir, I can send you the formula on how DESE assimilates the allocation. It's specific. DESE makes that determination based on several different factors.
And that's good enough for me. That you don't do that, DESE did that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. We're now down to our consent agenda. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Ready for the questions. Are there any? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Those who oppose, nay. Motion passes. We have 7 action items. May I have a motion for approval of land donation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Trauma-informed practices training for our Riverview Garden School District. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Riverview Garden School District ACE Agreement for 2021-2022. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Motion approved. 2021-2022 staffing plan with the adjustments that I recommended. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. File audit project extension. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Temporary staffing and HR benefits administration. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 And our last item, federal programs title grants acceptance. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 I want to compliment the presenters tonight in being as succinct as possible. We did this in slightly less than 2 hours. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.